like papayas. I think your mangoes are sweet. I like papayas. Nothing can beat the sweet love of God. I'm walking around the jungle, miles and down, trying to get a rhythm to my heavenly Father. The world tastes sweet, but then it got sour. I like bananas. I think the mangoes are sweet. I like papayas. But nothing can beat the sweet love of God. You need a I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time. I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time. Since Jesus Christ came in, I give my heart to Him. I'm in right up, right happy all the time. One more time. I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time. I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time. Jesus Christ came in, I gave my heart to Him. I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time. Okay. Cool.
Sorry.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Let's do it one more time. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
I think I'm gonna.
Yo tengo 8 hijos varones.
I have 8 sons who would soon have to enlist in the army and face serious Sabbath challenges.
Graves problemas del sábado.
To protect my sons, I moved here as a literature evangelist.
Nos ubicamos aquí.
40 years ago, Juan Amigo was sent to Andorra to work as a colporteur and to plant the first Adventist congregation in the nation. Andorra is a speck on the map, sandwiched between France and Spain. It lies in the valleys of a mountainous region where millions of tourists come for exciting sports activities every year. This country was one of the last unentered territories of the Inter-European Division. At that time, Juan and his family were the only Adventists in the country. Today, 5 of his sons remain in Andorra and have leadership roles in the only Adventist congregation there.
Our church is a bit different than other countries. Actually, in Andorra, there's no church registration, so we cannot exist as a church. So we created ourselves as an association, and this is the way that we can operate in this country.
Estamos en un grupo pequeño We are a small group. We have 25 members, of whom 14 are children. For several years, we did many evangelistic campaigns without many results. We decided to stop to pray until God showed us where we should focus our efforts. Now, we are focusing our efforts on our children and our children's friends, and our friends too.
Putting kids first has reshaped the style and flow of this church's worship. On Friday evenings, adult members meet at the church for Vespers and study the Sabbath school quarterly lesson ahead of schedule. This allows extra time for the kids during regular Sabbath morning activities. The study is a great way to enter the Sabbath day.
You know, in church, we're not used to put kids first. We don't give them a place in front in the stage, for example, many times, maybe only once a trimester. So we started focusing to do activities as pathfinders for our church, for our kids. That's actually what every church does. But we also created a space Saturday morning for them where they have kind of a sermon for kids, they have some activity for kids and also for the grown-ups. So we can interact, them and us, and we can learn from the kids and the kids can learn from us.
This week's teacher presents a message from the Bible. She brings visual illustrations and a kid-friendly sermon that is also enjoyable for adults. Afterward, the children break into classes to study their quarterly lesson. Then the adults enjoy a special message in the main hall. Once a month, a delicious potluck is served with a lot of international dishes and flavors. This is a great opportunity to grow relationships and nourish the body. The children of this church are catered to in a special way. They are put first because this group wants them to take leadership and ownership of church life. They are the future of this congregation, and through them, friends and parents are invited to many fun activities. Please pray for Adventist children around the world who will lead God's church in the coming days. And thank you for your support of the mission offering, which helped start this church.
Boys and girls, and welcome to Kids Camp Creation Crafts. We're so glad you're here joining us today. Are you ready for some crafting fun? We sure are. I'm your host, Miss Susie.
I'm Mr. Ryan. Thanks for joining us. We've got some helpers here. These blue people all dressed in nice blue outfits. Are you guys ready to make some crafts? Yeah! Woo, all right, so are we. You guys seem a little loud. I bet we need some help with you. Let's get some referees out here. Thanks, ladies, for helping us.
Thank you.
They're going to help with the microphone, and if our young artists here need some help, they're going to be here. I think we have a pretty interesting craft for you today. Miss Susie, what are we going to do?
We do. We have some fun food art for you.
Oh, that's great. Now, I've looked at that picture, and food art, because your drawing wasn't very good, Miss Susie. What's going on?
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, well, actually, our utensils that we're using, our tools that we're using, aren't like the ordinary art tools. We're going to actually be using food.
We're going to use fruits and vegetables for our brushes today. Wow, that sounds interesting. So, we like to connect our craft with a verse in the Bible. And our scripture for today comes from Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. A lot of people know this one because it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Oh, very good, boys and girls. And then it goes on to say, against such things there is no law. And this is a really interesting verse. That's inspiring our craft today. So, Miss Susie, are you ready to lead us in a direction, step by step through this?
I sure am. Are we ready, kids? Are we ready to start crafting?
Yes!
All right. Well, if you're just now joining us, you might look at this and say, I think I'm on the wrong show. Well, actually, you're not. We are going to be using fruits and vegetables to create our masterpiece. So first, we're going to start with an 8x10 canvas. And then we are going to take our fruits and our vegetables that we have here, and we're going to be dipping them in our paint and making a little creation. So you're going to go ahead and pick any type of fruit that you want. You can smother it in your paint and then dab it on to get your design.
Wait, I have a question for you though. Which ones are fruits and which ones are vegetables? Raise your hand and we'll give you a microphone. Just point out one of the fruits or vegetables.
The peppers are fruits.
Oh, you went for the hard one first. The pepper is a fruit, you said? Okay, now you got to answer why though.
Because fruits have seeds.
Fruits have seeds. Okay, who can pick out another fruit or vegetable? Okay, Zachary.
Apple is a fruit because it has seeds.
The apple is a fruit because it has seeds. You guys are very smart. We got a couple of scientists down here to help us.
The carrots are vegetables because it doesn't have any seeds.
Ah, that sounds good to me. All right, here we go.
The celery is a vegetable because it doesn't have seeds.
Very good. All right.
Now, Mr. Wright,
Yep.
I want to give a few instructions now. We had a question on how to use some of these.
Ooh,
so if
okay,
you
listen
want
up.
to use your apple, it has a fun design in here. If you can see that it has a star. So what you can do is put it face down like this, smear it in your paint, and then stamp it. And we can do the same thing with our pepper. And we also have, what is this, kiddos? Broccoli. And we have carrots, yes. And we also have strawberries. Strawberries kind of give a cute little heart shape. And we also have
Celery.
We have celery, that's right. And so they all have some fun shapes. So this is a great craft to get creative, okay? And that way we can see what we can design using our imaginations and the shapes we have before us. All right.
Well,
kiddos.
all good artists should actually sign their artwork. We should actually sign ours before we get too far. Can you guys flip yours over, sign your name real quick? All good artists wait till the end, but we're artists in training, so we're just going to sign ours first on the back. Go and put your name on there, and then flip it back over and start dipping. Okay, I'm sure this is the way you want to use your broccoli because maybe a lot of people don't like it, but it does taste great. But today you get to play with your food. This is going to be great. Okay, great job, you guys. Go ahead and flip them back over and start dipping away. I would be very interested to know what shapes do you see in the fruits and vegetables. So as you're working on it, go ahead and raise your hand and let me know if you see a certain shape. Does anybody see a shape that you want to tell me? No? And, do you see a circle? Do you see triangles? What do you see?
The strawberry has like a cool heart shape on it.
Oh, very interesting. The heart shape of the strawberry. Excellent. Who else sees a shape they would like to let us know? Anybody? You don't see any other shapes in there? What do you see? You got a shape? What does that look like at the end?
At the end, it looks like a smiley face.
Oh, okay. Let's see what we got here. Let's let the other boys and girls. What do we hear? Yep, no, I'll ask you next.
We have like a smiley face here.
Excellent. The end of the celery looks like a smiley face.
This one looks like the head.
Hey, let's hold it up. What do you got there?
A grape.
Okay. It has a nice round shape to it. Could be a head. Is that the only thing that's round? No, we can use it. Grapes are round. We could use them for wheels. You could use them for stars or suns or parts of bodies. Ooh, that's what you want to think about. Okay, you can dip the celery in at the ends, or you can dip it in on the sides. Very nice. Does anybody know what they're going to make here? A car. Wow, that's going to be cool. What other shapes do you guys see? What do you think the broccoli is? What kind of shape could you get out of that?
Clouds.
Cloud shape. I like that. And what's that?
Tree.
Tree. What do you see, Zach?
I was asking if I could, the memory verse. Can I see that, please?
Oh, I'd be happy to show you the memory verse, and then you could write it down, and that would be a great thing to add to the artwork here. Very good. Okay, what other shapes do you see? You know, it's important when you look for design in the fruits and the vegetables, God has put a lot of very interesting shapes in there. A lot of them are circular. We've seen the heart shape. Does anybody see a square in here? Really? Which one has a square shape? You think? Okay, let's see. Hold it up. Show me a square shape. Well, it kind of does. It's got a little bit of a square shape. The apple is mainly round, but if you cut it just right, you might see a square. Does anybody see a triangle anywhere?
Yes.
Where?
Strawberry.
Where on the strawberry?
The top part.
Okay, kind of the heart shape. Very good. There's a lot of amazing shapes that you can find in fruits and vegetables.
That's right.
Uh-oh, I think I thought of another question. Do you guys know what the grape said when the elephant sat on it? Does anybody know? Ouch. Well, that's probably what I would say. Oh, the grape didn't say anything. It just let out a little whine. Oh. Those are dad jokes, and those are best left to grown-ups, okay? Yes. Okay, but I do have another one. You guys all know about the animals that went on the arks, right? On the ark? On the ark? There's just one of them. That's right. And so all of the animals went in pairs. Did you guys know that? Except the worms. Do you guys know what they went in? They went in apples. Okay? Just remember that. See, you often have to go to other places to get such wisdom, but you can find that here at Creation Crafts.
That's right. And
All right,
remember,
you guys are
boys
doing
and
great.
girls, you can always go to our website at 3abnkidscamp.tv to get all of the supplies and the instructions for making our crafts.
Excellent. Is anyone willing to show us what you're working on and what stage? Maybe you could hold up your, I kind of like your patterns here. Oh, you don't want to show us? Oh, you don't want to reveal your artwork in the middle of the progress here? Let's see what you got, Leslie. Very nice. You know, I think it's funny about this. It kind of takes us back a few years from our current artistic abilities and gives us a childlike look to our artwork. Not really. That's for real, I think. Yeah, we can get really sophisticated in our drawings, and that's okay. Very good. I had another question. This one's a serious question. I was wondering if you guys could think of any other fruits or vegetables that might have interesting shapes to them. Maybe Miss Susie could help us, because
I actually do have another one.
Okay, let's go to Miss Susie.
How many of you have heard of a star fruit? Yes, those are really fun. You cut those, they're in the shape of a star, and so when you stamp them, you get a star. Those are really fun to use.
Yeah, it's fun just to go to the local grocery store and see what they have and
right.
look for some shapes. Do you have one that you're thinking of? Okay, we can get the microphone down here.
The carrots are cylinders.
Very good. They have a nice cylinder shape that you can make. Can you guys think of another fruit or vegetable that might be out there to give you an interesting shape? I don't know, would a banana? Can we see this?
That one is very pretty.
That is awesome. Good job.
That is great. I love it.
Wow. Is anybody willing to show what else they're working on? What do you got? Thanks, Jonathan. Very nice. What are you making there?
A tree and a hill and flowers and a sun.
Nice.
Very nice.
That's awesome.
Well, have any of your parents said not to play with your food? Yes. Well, in this instance, we do get to play with our food. Isn't this fun?
Yeah, all right. You guys are doing great. Love your artwork. I see a lot of trees. Okay. Very nice. And I like you can write a Bible verse, the fruits of the Spirit. That's a great thing there. Where do you guys think you might put this up when you go home? On the ceiling, okay.
That's a very creative place.
Okay.
That's right. That's a good idea. I love it.
Great.
Very good.
Now, I like how we use canvas for this because it's a very sturdy material.
It is. Now, you could also use paper, but we do like canvas just because it is such a harder, sturdier material, and your paint won't bleed through it either.
Very good. Are you guys getting hungry? Should we eat the fruits and vegetables here?
No,
Miss Susie would. Oh, Miss Susie, is this paint edible? What kind of paint are we using today?
No, actually, we are using acrylic paints, and you do not want to eat this.
You would be able to eat it.
Oh, yeah. If you don't put any paint, but your fingers look like they have the acrylic paint on it, so we got to watch our fingers here.
Our fruits and vegetables haven't been washed either, so we kind of need to be careful with that.
I would be careful about eating anything that has acrylic paints on it. They are not.
Do we have any
Good for you to
others
eat.
who have their artworks done that want to share?
Anyone else want to show what they're
Anyone
working
else
on?
want to share theirs?
Okay. Want to lift it up real quick? Because we're getting close to being done with creation crafts for today. Oh.
This is a piece of awesomeness.
Oh!
Wow, we love it.
I would agree with that.
I would agree too. That is great.
Wow, this is fantastic.
All right. Have you boys and girls had fun today?
Yes.
Have you had fun at home? We hope so. We really thank you for joining us today on this episode of Creation Crafts, where Scripture inspires creativity.
Tan and Tekel, number 1. Hello. This story that we're going to be telling and talking about for the next few weeks is about 2 field mice. Now, field mice live in the country and they eat off of what they can find. Our first mouse that we're going to talk about, this is Tan. He is the daddy mouse. And this is his mate, Tekel. And she is the mama mouse. So every week we're going to talk about a different story about their experiences as they live in the woodlands and the meadows and in the country. Now, Tan and Tekel live near a farm in the country. So let's pretend that Tan and Tekel can talk. And we're going to listen in to what they're saying. It was because of the Golden Queen, and not from any choice of their own, that Tan and Tekel came to live where they did. They had first lived in a cozy little nest of grass and wool under the bottom rail of an old farm fence. In their little nest, they had grass and wool and other things to keep it very nice and warm and soft. And one morning, Tan said, "It's early spring and the nights are still kind of cold and the mornings are kind of frosty." But when they had finished all their hard work, they had started enjoying their little home. Tekel was keeping house, while Tan ran back and forth along the fence row, gathering food for both of them. One morning, Tan was out getting his breakfast, scurrying along the fence row. Can any of you guess what Tan found for food? Do any of you know what little field mice eat? Remember, this is early spring, so Tan had to hunt hard for seeds, which had lain all winter under the snow. He gnawed at the roots where the sweet sap was beginning to run. As he gathered up his choice little morsels to take to Tekel, he was thinking what a good, quiet, and nest-loving little mate she was. He was just saying to himself, "How proud she will be of me bringing her such good food," when all of a sudden he heard a frightened squeak, and there was Tekel coming toward him, running for dear life. "What's the matter, Tekel?" he asked. "What is the matter, Tekel?" he asked as she rushed to him, trembling with fear. She was shaking all over. He said, "Did a cat or a dog frighten you? Or did some boys come prowling around?" Worse than that, she panted. It was a bee, a great big, larger than my head. She had a big, long stinger, and she was buzzing around. I was so weak I could scarcely scramble out the back way and run to you. What shall we do, Tan? What shall we do?" Though only a tiny brown field mouse, one of the most timid and retiring of the world of little wild creatures, Tan felt his whiskers bristling with rage, and his neck swelling, and his eyes growing red and angry. He determined to go back to the nest and drive out the intruder. He would even leap upon her and bite her if she did not leave at once. He comforted Tekel the best he could and gave her all the nice little bits of food he had gathered for breakfast. He left her safe in a hollow fence rail to eat, while he went back to the nest. Tan felt quite brave when he started, but as he started running along and zigzagging along the fence, trying to keep a sharp lookout that no prowling dog or sparrowhawk or other enemy should surprise him, he felt less and less able to face boldly a great bumblebee. His courage grew fainter and fainter until when he reached the nest, he was no longer fearless with anger, but was a helpless, timid little field mouse, afraid of his own shadow. He paused for a moment in the friendly shelter of a rail which overhung the nest. His keen little nose brought to his brain clearly the odor of bumblebee, and he would have known without being told that bee had been inside. But he hoped she was gone away. Little by little, he crept into the dark, narrow passage and along to the soft, warm nest, which he and Tekel had built with so much care. Just as his little feet pressed the soft wool lining of the nest, there boomed out, loud and terrible, "Bzzz!" The angry hum of a great bumblebee inside made the whole place roar with the sound and quiver with tingling vibrations. With a shriek of terror, Tan tore out through the little passageway, and in his fright he leaped clear of the sheltering fence row, and he ran for his life at full speed in the open. Lucky it was for him that none of the many enemies of field mice happened to be within reach of him, for he was so unnerved by the terrible roar of the bee that he ran without remembering anything else. Quaking with fear, he soon joined Tekel in the hollow fence rail where he had left her. Thus it was that the Golden Queen turned Tan and Tekel out of their first nest. She was the great bumblebee queen, larger than a mouse's head. She had an immense spread of wings that sounded like an approaching windstorm when she flew, and which roared when she was angry. She had slept soundly all winter, deep in the hollow root of an old dead tree in the wheat field. The warm spring weather had awakened her, and she had crept forth, sunned herself for a time on the side of the tree. Then she had flown away in search of a home for the colony of bumblebees she meant to raise. Except for one or two of her sisters who, like herself, had found a snug place in which to spend the winter, she was the only one of her immediate family to live through the old cold winter, and she had nobody at all to help her. Now, queens, whether they be women or bees, usually do very little hard work. Their business is to govern the nation or the colony. So the Golden Queen started out to find a nest ready-made, so that she would have little to do. The nest of field mice was just right, and after she had frightened away Tan and Tekel, she was snug and safe and warm. She had little to do but gather wax and pollen from the early flowers, lay a few eggs, and wait until the young worker bees were hatched and able to do all the work of the colony. But Tan and Tekel were homeless. They followed the fence road to the south, looking for another location for a nest. They finally had to leave their friendly shelter of the fence and strike out across the short grass of an open woodland. They know they were not safe there. They heard many strange noises, and they scurried faster and faster. They had to find a place of shelter. Will Tan and Tekel be seen by their enemies? How soon will they find a place for a home? Next time we'll find out if they can find a new home. Be sure to listen next time we have a story. That's all for now.
Hey boys and girls, welcome to Kids Loft. I hope you've been having a good time watching this so far, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I want to talk to you once again about this book, this old worn out book called the Bible. And did you know that even though the Bible is a book, it's more like a library, because it is a book that is made up of many other books. So when you look in the Bible, there are 66 little books within this one book, and they're split up into two sections. And maybe you've heard of this before. There is the Old Testament and there is the New Testament. Now, the New Testament is where we find Jesus, right? So we as Christians, we spend a lot of time in the New Testament because that's where Jesus is. But the Old Testament is important as well. Let me show you. Do you see this division right here? Where I'm making this opening? On this side right here, that's the New Testament. This big side is the Old Testament. So there's a lot more in the Old Testament than in the New Testament. And in these many, many pages are some really exciting and fun stories. So today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I wanted to share with you, boys and girls, my top 3 favorite stories from the Old Testament. So I'll tell you what those are and a little bit of why those are my favorites. So, the first one, now this goes way back to when I was just very small. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And at that time, if anybody asked me what my favorite Bible story was, I would say the story of Samson. I was obsessed with Samson. I just thought he was so cool and he was so strong and mighty and he did these amazing things. But he also got into a lot of trouble. And so Samson's story is very up and down, up and down. He does these awesome things and then he makes some mistakes. He does this great thing and then he does this silly thing. And it goes back and forth, back and forth. And so eventually, though, he makes the mistake. And maybe you're familiar with this story, but he gets with this woman named Delilah. And he tells her the secret of his strength in that it's connected with his hair. He had long hair. He never cut it. Never, ever, ever cut it. And so Delilah, wanting to defeat him, cut off his hair while he was sleeping. And when the bad guys came, when the Philistines came, they were able to overpower him because his strength was gone. And so at that point, the story takes a turn and it becomes kind of sad. He gets put into prison. They put his eyes out. He was blinded and he was made to just work and work and work like a slave. And people came to watch him and they were entertained by it and they laughed at him and they made fun of him. But then at the end, he cries out to God and he admits his wrongs and realizes that the strength wasn't so much in his hair as it was from God. And so he asked God to give him his strength one more time so he could defeat the Philistines, and he did it. He pulled down those pillars and the whole building came down and all the bad guys with it. So that was my favorite Bible story growing up, and I still like it. There's a lot of really intriguing stuff in that story. But it's interesting that this is a story of a man of God who was not perfect, who made mistakes, just like you and me. You know, we love God, we want to follow God and serve him, but sometimes we make mistakes. But ultimately, God came through. And so the second story from the Old Testament that I really love is similar in that way. It's the story of Moses. Now, this is a story that's really long. It starts when he's a baby, and it goes all the way until he died as an old man up on a mountain. But this story is, once again, a man of God, someone who wanted to serve God and follow God, but he made a number of mistakes. And it started early, right? He saw this Egyptian that was hurting one of his fellow Hebrews. And he got angry. And when he attacked that Egyptian, he killed him. And then he tried to hide the body. And he had to flee in the wilderness. But as years went by, as time went on, God was able to reach him. He spoke to him. Remember that story of the burning bush? The bush was on fire, but it didn't get burned up. It just kept flaming, and God's voice came out of it. And he called Moses to go free the people of Israel. And he did that. God was able to use Moses in a mighty way. But then they went into the desert, and they ended up being in the desert for years and years and years. And while he was there, Moses acted sometimes impatiently. Sometimes he reacted out of anger. And he did a lot of good things for God, but he also made some mistakes, just like Samson. But ultimately, Moses served God, gave his life to God, and God took Moses to heaven early. You realize that? Moses is already in heaven. He appeared to Jesus, he and Elisha. Remember, Elijah got taken to heaven in a chariot of fire. But so Moses' story, it's a little bit complicated, right? He loved God, he served God, but he also made some silly mistakes, did some bad things. But we serve a God who is merciful, a God who will forgive us, a God who loves us. And so the third story is a little bit different, because the story of Samson, the story of Moses, these are, people that wanted to serve God, but they made a lot of mistakes along the way. But this third story I love from the Old Testament is the story of Joseph. And when you look at the story of Joseph, you see a man, or even early on, a boy, who did the right things. He made good choices. We don't see a lot of Joseph making mistakes. Yet a lot of bad things happened to him, right? His family turned against him. His brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. Then he's working for Potiphar, this guy who's high up in the Egyptian government. And Potiphar's wife frames Joseph, lies about him, tries to get him in trouble, and it works. He gets thrown into prison for something he never did. Then, when he's in prison, he's forgotten about. He's left there for years. But then he gets out, and he rises up in the ranks, and eventually becomes second in command in all of Egypt, and is able to, by listening to God and interpreting dreams, is able to save countless lives, not just in Egypt, but all over the world. When this famine comes, there's no food. People need food, and Joseph was able to prepare for that and have food for those that came in need. And he was able to rekindle the relationship with his family, his brothers. He forgave them, accepted them. And his brothers and his father, they came to live in Egypt. But that's a story, I believe, that helps us in this world. This world can be hard, right? And sometimes bad things happen to good people. And that's what happened to Joseph in his story. But the beautiful thing is that even when bad things were happening to Joseph, God was still there. God still loved him. And God was able to take the bad things and to switch them around, turn them around, and use them for good. And God is still in the business of using bad for good. So boys and girls, as you go through life, you might make some mistakes. You might mess up, but just remember that God loves you and God will forgive you for those mistakes. Be honest with God and admit your faults. God, I messed up today. Will you forgive me? But believe that He always will forgive you. Bad things will happen to good people. You might see bad things happening to people that you love. You might see bad things might be happening to you. But don't let those bad things make you think that God has forgotten about you or given up on you or doesn't love you, because that's not true. And many times God can take those bad things, if we're willing to trust Him, and use them for good. So remember that as you go through this next week. And I want to give you some homework, boys and girls, but this will be some fun homework. And this is kind of homework for others, for the adults as well. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what is your favorite story from the Old Testament? And go to mom or dad or whatever adults that you're currently with and ask them that if you can set a time sometime this week that you can sit down with them and they can read you your favorite story from the Old Testament, and then you guys can talk about it. Ask some questions about where do I see God in this story? How is God working in this story? What am I learning from this story? What are my favorite parts of this story? How am I like the character in this story? Just different questions you can ask and talk about. So that's your homework, boys and girls. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. And I will see you all later. Bye.